And ladies and gentlemen, we are live. It is Martin Luther King Day, January 16th, 2023. This is the Voice of Reason podcast. My name is Sean Phillips, and as always, I am joined alongside my two co-hosts, the captain, Mr. Andrew Van Beber, and the hung like a horse, Travis Kirkendall. Gentlemen,
Really?
how are
Wait
you
a minute.
two
No,
fellas doing
what?
today?
This is all news to me. What?
News to me too, but I'll take it.
Let's get
I
Travis.
meant to say mini horse, but still hung like a horse nonetheless.
All of it. All of it. I'll take it all.
Oh my gosh, man, we have a lot of vim and vigor now that we have had 2 weeks, had a week off, and oh my goodness.
Yeah, what did you guys do with your with a staycations?
What didn't I? Last Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was I homeless? I was home. Friday was the only day that I was home during the week at night. So, school stuff, quiz bowl. We opened up the old quiz bowl season. So that was a big deal. So, yay, Clopton quiz bowl. No.
Right on.
Other than that, just doing mom and dad crap. Bryson starting swim team and all that other stuff. And then today we kind of had just kind of a laid back day, and we all went out to the old Dos Primos today and had some Mexican fine dining. And
Oh man, that's a Pike County monument right there.
it is. And
I need to go back there. I haven't been in a long
oh
time.
man, I tell you what, the one in Louisiana, if you ever have a chance, or the one in Bowling Green is by far the
Yeah,
best.
buddy.
I tell you what, I love that one. So. Sean, what did your tell us about your adventures in Arizona?
Yeah, no, they were good. It was kind of crazy. Lots of last minute stuff going on for our production, which went great. We had a complete sellout, turn people away at the door show in Mesa, Arizona, at the Bellbank Park, which is this giant sports complex that was built, I guess, beginning of last year. It was wild. I mean, you get there, this place is massive. There's the pickleball court that we were on that they are going to start using to film like the professional pickleball league, like ESPN and all them are out there doing those leagues and stuff like that. But like, no joke, this complex had like on the inside 30 full-size basketball courts, a mini stadium on the inside, 20 something volleyball courts, and then surrounding it was like, I mean, there was 30 games of softball going on like around it. I mean, it
In
was
this complex.
crazy. In this
Holy
complex,
cow.
it's massive. It was massive. But everything went really, really well. The girls got to meet my aunt and uncle, whom they haven't met before on my mom's side, my mom's brother. They had a really good time, and it was great to see them. I haven't seen them for a handful of years, but we actually got to go to this thing in Mesa that if you're ever out there, I'd recommend. It was this butterfly emporium or something, and you go in and there's
Butterfly House.
but there were just like there are thousands upon thousands of butterflies just flying all over, and like they land on you, and then they suck the pollen out of you, then they're on to the next one. I mean, it was cool.
We did one of those when we were in Gulf Shores, Alabama last year, and it was by far one of the most. It was very. And they said, if you have a chance, wear orange. And I was like, wear orange. And certain types of butterflies are attracted to orange. And it was this shirt actually. And I mean, just had butterflies land on you all the time. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was cool. And they actually had like a thing set up where we watched like several cocoons like hatching. Like that was neat. And they just kind of fall out and flop around. Yeah, it was pretty neat. Travis, how about you?
Just worked a lot. I mean, it was a pretty boring week, waking up at 4, getting to bed 11:30, and weekend I just did Uber and
Did I see you were
nothing.
down in Bloomington? Did I see you were in Bloomington, Illinois?
Yeah, we've been working. I'm either in Bloomington, Illinois, or I'm in Couts, Indiana. It's been like those two sites, and
Well, that is officially the halfway point between here and home.
is that the official halfway
Yes,
point?
yes, it is. Well,
Oh,
for me, when I'm going to Naperville, and you're another hour from Naperville, right?
Yeah, it's like an hour south.
So it's a little. I would say for you, well, no, because then you had, yeah, I'd say it's about, yeah. I know it's halfway point for me. So yeah,
What's funny about Bloomington is I thought it was funny when I was working up on the tower and you look around at this town. I mean, you can see the ends of the town. Like you can see where the houses end and the cornfields begin,
yes,
like on
yeah.
all four, like all directions. It's just like
Oh
it's literally
man,
a city in the middle of nowhere. If you even call it a city. I mean, it's. I will say, I was surprised. There's like a lot of money out there.
when you look
Like
back,
there are some really nicer developed homes. I saw like six Rivian trucks, which are like really expensive all electric trucks. A bunch
Those
of
trucks are so
Teslas, like
cool.
oh, they're awesome. Dude, people are making bank down there in Bloomington. Something's going on.
well, that's a great university town. It's
That's true. I forgot about
and
that.
it's got Illinois State there, and when you look at the history, when you look back at some of the geological history of central Illinois up in, well, actually, it's more east central up into northern Illinois. It's amazing to find out how much of that, and you have to go back a couple of 100,000 years, that a lot of that was just swampland off of Lake Michigan. A lot of,
Really?
yeah, you can go look it up on the U.S. Geological Survey site, and they give you like a progression map of, from this time to this time to this time to this time, and it's really interesting. That's why, I mean, so much of that is just so flat and desolate up there, so it's pretty interesting. So
Yeah, Illinois sucks.
yeah, well, but tonight I called tonight's episode rapid firing on the voice of reason, and it's not what you think it means, Sean. So let's just go ahead and get that out of your head right now before you let that one go about. But no, we've had a variety, and it's kind of goes along with this week's poll question. Thank you. And we're going to kind of go in line with the poll tonight. But this week's poll question was, what do you feel are the biggest news events over the last 2 weeks? And the choices they had was, well, the Damar Hamlin story, the recovery of Damar Hamlin. We had the fiasco that was the Kevin McCarthy Speaker of the House thing. We had the arrest of influencer Andrew Tate on human trafficking charges, and the NFL playoffs. And no, well, from greatest to least, it was Kevin McCarthy, the arrest of Andrew Tate, and the NFL playoffs. So I thought that was interesting, and I know.
Wait, were the documents in that?
Oh yeah, and the documents. Yes, the documents were in that too, and that was so the documents go before the NFL playoffs. Thank you. That was I have to hit view all options, and so
So the Tate one was the last one, like the last.
the Tate one, the NFL playoffs was it goes Kevin McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy and documents were both at like 28%, and then Andrew Tate, and then the NFL playoffs, and nobody voted on the story of Damar Hamlin. So, um,
I
real
was
quick,
surprised any of our listeners even knew who
well,
Tate
yeah,
was.
yeah. But real quick, we won't spend a lot of time on it, and I know that Travis doesn't get too much of this, but Sean, I'm going to say this as a football fan. To me, and I've been watching football since I was a toddler, and to me, this is probably one of the most memorable weekends of NFL football that I can remember. Just great games. And of course, right now I haven't looked at what the score is right now, but I'm sure that
24 to nothing. But a record has been broken in that game.
what's that?
Dallas Cowboys kicker has missed 4 extra
Oh,
points,
you're
which
kidding!
is an NFL
He missed the
NFL
fourth
record.
one. I just watched the third
He
one. I
missed.
saw the third one. He missed. That guy's not going to have a job tomorrow.
No, no, he is not. Which
Jeez.
which is crazy because they could win, in a blowout, and then you still get fired. How do you get fired on your day off? But
I was watching.
no,
I was watching the Eli, and whenever it's Monday Night Football, I love watching Eli and Peyton Manning do their little.
oh, the Manning cast is
It's
is
awesome.
great. Yeah.
And
No, I'm
after the third one, Peyton Manning stood up and he said, he, all you had was basically a shot of his midsection, and the camera's like, "How do you miss?" It's like, is it possible to release somebody at halftime of a playoff game?
seriously, they could put in any other guy and kick, and they might have a chance. No, You're right. The weekend of sports has been crazy, especially with football and the playoffs. I think a couple of games were a lot closer than some people anticipated them being, and I think a lot of that is just it is the playoffs. So even if like the Chargers one is really interesting
Oh my gosh,
because
Travis,
you know
if you didn't see this, at one point the Chargers were up on the Jaguars, who were I believe it was a 16-point spread is what the spread was, maybe more than that. But this that at,
the over was pretty high
so at one point this game, Travis, was 27-0 going in like the last 2 minutes of the
at
first half.
halftime.
No, it was 27-7 at halftime
Oh yeah, that's right. Because they
because
scored on the
Trevor Lawrence marched him down the field, and they got and this guy, and it's the only time that a quarterback has thrown 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in a playoff football game.
Oh shit.
And so that to me was the most. I've, with the exception, I did fall asleep in the Buffalo game on Sunday, but for all the other games, I've watched every. In this one tonight, I've watched every game from beginning to end, and they were just. It was more like championship weekend football than Usually when you watch wild card weekend, it's usually just blowout games, and what you,
It's usually teams that either are hot and they catch a team that was good in a weak division, or it's a team that just snuck in and a team that could have been top of their division or was top of their division just didn't get the one seed. But no, there was a lot of them.
and what are we?
I
And we
would
are.
like to get.
I was going to say we're 6 weeks removed from the start of Battlehawk season, correct?
But yeah, I think that kicks off
Two
towards
weeks
the
after,
beginning of March. Yeah, 2 weeks after the Super Bowl.
2 or 3 weeks after Super Bowl, but my Facebook has been flooded with, and ticket sales are very reasonable, and I'm definitely thinking about going
I
down.
need to look. I was disappointed because I mean, obviously, I wasn't going to buy season tickets because I live here now
Yeah,
in Los Angeles. But I remember when I bought my pair of season tickets previously, and they were at the 50-yard line, and the second section up, like which even the second section up was still on the field, like it was crazy. I spent I think like $200 for a pair, so it was like $100 a piece. When I looked at the tickets now, it was if I wasn't mistaken, I'm pretty sure I saw like season tickets for one were like 400, 500
yeah,
bucks, which that
yeah.
was disappointing.
They're 20. They're. It looks like about $25 a game is what it's looking like, and
Yeah, I
that was second tier. So, but
yeah.
I'm
Well,
I am kind of
before
excited
before
about that.
we kind of roll into all of it, there's two questions I gotta ask because Travis, I don't know if you even know who's in the NFL playoffs right now, and that's okay.
I have no
Um,
idea.
okay, so
That's
V,
okay.
so I got two questions. V,
Hmm.
I need your Super Bowl predictions, and Travis, I need your Cyril Gahn and John Jones predictions.
Oh God.
I did see the advertisement for that tonight on ESPN Plus.
Go ahead, Andy.
Super Bowl predictions. I love my Chiefs, but I will say this: the Bengals scare the ever living life out of me. Joe Burrow is the real deal. He's got eye on, and again, and it makes Sean sick that I'm this much of a Chiefs fan, but I'm a Chiefs fan through and through. But the Bengals defense has our number. And I think it's going to be a slugfest between the Bills and the Bengals next week. But I think the Bengals come up on top. I pretty much think the Eagles are going to run the gambit on the NFC. So I'm saying Bengals and Eagles. And your pick, Travis, for the fight?
Uh, it's kind of the same as Sean and I texted about it earlier, and it's kind of the same as what I've texted him. John Jones. I'm not a John Jones fan. Just gonna put that out there, but you can't deny that John Jones is an absolute beast in the octagon. Is considered a GOAT, despite the scandals, despite the drug use, whatever. Uh, the guy is a fantastic martial artist. My thing is though, he's coming off of what is this, a 2, 3 year layoff? I watched his last fight, and I forget how many years ago that was,
I
Sean.
think it'll be 3 years.
3 year layoff. He had that whole issue with his wife and had a lot of family issues going on. He's getting
So he
older.
was
I
having
believe he's
fights, just not in the octagon. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, he was training at home.
He could have been a
Um,
Kansas City Chiefs player, right, Sean?
and his age. How old
His
is John
cousin.
Jones now?
John Jones has got to be 34 now,
I saw that.
35,
I think I saw that stat somewhere.
All right. He's
which is wild to
35.
think. Yeah, 35,
John
which is
Jones is
wild to think.
35 years old, and he's stepping up a weight class to heavyweight
Mhm.
At 35.
at 35. And again, 3 year layoff. And Cyril Gahn, his last fight looked phenomenal. Like, yeah, he lost to Ganyu, but dude, I thought his last fight, I was pretty impressed. The dude's, for his size, the dude's got some skills. He's got some movement.
And that fight is
I
slated
don't
for, is
know.
that Saturday night?
It's in a couple months.
Okay, so the
Yes.
one I saw the advertisement for was this Saturday night. It's
Yeah,
283.
no, I
So it's a
the
toss up,
to
man. I don't know if I give it to him.
yeah. See, in the football realm of things goes, I actually think in the NFC, I think the NFC Championship game is going to be the Eagles and the 49ers.
Yeah,
I think that
that's still a toss up for me.
the 49ers have the best defense in the NFL and one of the more underrated offenses. I know that they've kind of been
How about
without a quarterback, and there's a lot of question marks around Brock Purdy.
that kid?
But
I
if he can at least play at the level that he's played, they have the ability on defense to give him extra chances if he does turn the
Mhm.
ball over. But the reason why, even with him stepping in, they're scoring over 30 points a game is because he hasn't turned the ball over.
Mr. Irrelevant. That's what I think
And
is the Travis, the guy who's picked last in the NFL draft every year. They call him Mr. Irrelevant. I mean, they say, and this year's Mr. Brock Purdy, who is the guy who's leading the 49, was picked dead last in this year's NFL draft. And the guy is, I mean, his performance on Saturday was amazing. Was amazing. I mean, I've never seen
yeah, and
just
he
textbook
is
stuff.
um he is a stud, and it's wild. I I genuinely believe that if he can keep doing what he's doing, they have a real chance. And the AFC, um, I've got there's a couple different options. I think that if Buffalo wins, I think that because it's a neutral site, I think Buffalo has a legitimate chance to win that game.
I would, sadly, I would
If
agree with you because they've got a ton of
if
momentum right now.
if Cincinnati wins, that one's tough because I I could see Cincinnati going all the way. I just think their road's a little bit harder going to Buffalo, going to Kansas City. However, if they beat both of those teams, I think the Bengals are going to be the Super Bowl champions. I mean, their defensive line is great. Their secondary has a lot to be desired, but they just so many weapons on offense. Joe Burrow smart with the ball, but again, they have three of their five starting offensive linemen are hurt and are seemingly out. And if you saw why they lost the Super Bowl, last year, why, like,
They
even in
got
the
beat.
AFC
Got
Championship
beat
game against the Chiefs, I think they sacked him like seven
seven
times. So it was a
times.
miracle that they won.
7 times.
But yeah, and as far as John Jones and Cyril Gahn goes, Travis, I'm with you. I'm really not a John Jones fan, but you can't really ever count him out, which is crazy because like he's had long layoffs before. Um, and then yeah, his fights were close, but he won. I mean, he won. Um, I think one was a split decision against. That was his last fight.
That's the one. That's the last
And
one
then
I saw. Forget the guy's name. It was like close. Like it was
yeah, because
controversial.
yeah, and then that guy has gone on to be like not win. I think he's lost like four straight since then or so.
Yeah, it
Like
like
it's
fucked
not
his
good.
career.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then St. Preux, when he fought him, St. Preux, some people thought that he won. So he goes these long stretches without fights. But again, Cyril Gahn, that's the big thing is how do rebounding from the loss to Ngannou. Um, is maybe he's not as worried about the power of John Jones because it's wild. The heavyweight division's it's different. However, John Jones has spent the last 3 years putting on the weight to be able to
I
do
was going
it.
to say how much.
So
I was going to ask how much time that usually takes to do that.
It just
I
depends on
mean,
the
to be fair,
fighter.
like a lot of those guys, they cut, they make their weight cut and they make light heavyweight. A lot of them walk around as heavyweights. Like Daniel Cormier, for example, would walk
Yeah.
around as a heavyweight. He really didn't have to do much. But I mean, John Jones wanted to be the same size as the guys in the heavyweight division. He was already as tall as them, but now he has the same mass as them. So um, it's going to be crazy. And like I said, he lives in Albuquerque, high altitude, so he's kind of been training them lungs and adding the weight.
That's
So
good.
it's
I
gonna be a
just
good one.
That'd be
I
good.
just want to throw out before we leave the sports topic. The fight I'm most excited about this year is return of America's champ Colby Covington, baby, coming back to get that title. I know you're a big fan of him, so that's the fight I'm excited for.
That'd be good. Well, number two topic. Number two topic as voted on by. Well, actually, the number one topic as voted on. I took the number three topic and moved it to number one. But last week we saw history being made. Not the good kind of history, but the worst kind of history in the voting for the Speaker of the House. A record in two forms. Number one, it took 16 votes to get a Speaker of the House added to the I believe we're up to the 117th Congress now. And we have not seen a vote like this since. I wanted to make sure I get the right date here. It was 1856. So in 1856, and that was prior to, obviously, 4 years prior to the start of the Civil War. And at that time, you had Southern Democrats, you had Northern Democrats, you had Southern Republicans, very few Southern Republicans, and you had Northern Republicans. And the party situation, at least on the Republican side, looked very similar to what it looked for back in 1856. Kevin McCarthy, who represents I think it's the Bakersfield area there in California. Sean, I don't know if you're familiar with what area he represents, but Bakersfield, Northern California tends to be more Republican. So I would say that is probably where he's at. But we saw all of these votes, and wouldn't you know it, the guy who is leading the fight against Kevin McCarthy was our good buddy Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz, who is the king-sized douchebag from a district, I believe, in Florida. He basically, at one point during the nomination, and by the way, you can nominate anybody to be, you don't have to be a member of the House to be Speaker of the House. And that shocks a lot of people. And at one point, Matt Gaetz actually, in one of his nomination, he nominated Donald Trump as Speaker of the House. So, with all that being said, you even had one point where it was
And he was asking nominating Jim Jordan too.
yes, well Jim Jordan didn't want to have anything to do with that. Jim Jordan
Yeah.
is one of those guys who was in, along with, I might also say, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is also in Kevin McCarthy's corner. Was, everybody was trying. Matt Gaetz was leading that group of 20 Republicans until the point where by the 14th, 15th vote, Kevin McCarthy had pretty much signed his soul to the devil to get all the votes that he needed. Some of the concessions that and when Matt Gaetz was interviewed later on, it's like, okay, how come you just didn't continue to hold out? And Matt Gaetz, again, this guy has balls the size of shot puts. He literally had the balls to say on national television, well, we ran out of things to ask for.
Yeah. I
We,
saw
ra-
that. Actually, I saw that interview.
we ran out of things to ask for. Kevin McCarthy conceded so much. And one of the things that he conceded on as Speaker of the House, you pretty much have large influence as to what kind of bills can be introduced onto the floor. And one of these bills, and we brought it up in our chat group. What was that? That was midway through last week. A bill that was introduced that basically was going to eliminate the IRS and would basically eliminate the entire however many thousand page our tax code is, would eliminate that and would put forth a national sales tax. And now, and it caught a lot of wind, but when you read about it, everybody's like, look, it was done by this far right conservative group within Congress of Republicans, and it was one of the deals that Kevin McCarthy had made, that if he would allow, if they, I mean, he even gave something to these guys. It was kind of a bone that he gave to these guys to say, okay, look, if you vote for me, I'll let you introduce this bill. Now, this bill's going to die in committee. There's no
Yeah.
way that
Um,
this bill's not going to make it out of committee, because there's so many. When you look at the tax code, who does the tax code benefit more than anybody else? The
the
wealthy,
rich.
the wealthy, and the majority of your congressmen, they are millionaires, and they're not going to let this get out of committee because they like their tax loopholes. They like all the tax breaks and all the tax shelters that are set up for everything from their campaign finance, you know, to their 30 houses that they have and whatever else. And so that was one thing. Um, I'm trying to think what is. Um, they also talked about Lauren Boebert of Colorado. She was the one who was stripped of her committee assignments last year for making the anti-Muslim slurs about Ilhan Omar from Minnesota. You got Matt, like I said, Matt Getz, who's the. By the way, Matt Getz is still under federal, like I said, still under federal investigation for trafficking, but he hasn't faced any charges yet. And these are the people that, and McCarthy even agreed to a new rule. And Congress always, every session of Congress, they update or they change their rules. Kevin McCarthy agreed to a rule to be put in to make it easier to vote out the speaker. So, I mean, all it takes is a vote of no confidence to be introduced by any congressional member, and he actually lowered the number that was necessary to have a vote of no confidence in the speaker. So when you
I
look at
think
what's your guys' first impression over this issue?
first impression, I mean it I think it shows just how yeah, I guess weak Democrat, I mean the Republican Party is, and it's just you can see I was talking to you before we started this show. I had seen an interview, or no, it wasn't an interview, it was a speech. It was a speech that Gates did when he or Getz, I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing his name wrong, when he nominated Jim Jordan. But he goes on this whole spiel of he says how he's not going to vote for Kevin McCarthy, and that he doesn't think that he's qualified for the job. And he goes on to say things like you're calling out not just him, but a bunch of congressmen saying these things like, how can you represent your people when you take all this money from these large corporations that pay you to be here? And he says a lot of stuff. And what I found fascinating about it, I forget who even if it was Fox News that shared the video or who it was, but I read the comments section and people are absolutely praising this guy Gets. Now, let's go back to what you said. The guy's under investigation for sex trafficking. Now, do I agree with what he said? Yes. At the same time, I think the guy's a hypocrite.
Well, the guy's a
And
dude.
anybody,
Yeah.
he's a douche. Anyone who's under investigation for sex trafficking, I don't think you should even be in a public office. And I don't think you should be representing your constituents or Americans in general. So right off the bat, you lost my trust, and I can't support that. But I think it just shows that the Republican Party is just—it's not. I mean, it's obviously
It's civil war.
ever since Trump happened. it's just been a mess, I think. I think ever since Trump came into office, the Republican Party's just been a mess, and there's been a divide in the Republican Party. And so I think Democrats are looking at this like, great. Yeah, exactly. That right there. It's just,
Sean,
I think it's just embarrassing.
what do you think, Sean?
No, it's a lot of what Travis just went on about. I mean, it was crazy. Uh, I, I don't know. V, you might have said it at the beginning. Has anything like this ever happened before, or in the last 150 years has anything like this happened?
Not like I said, not since 1856.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah, not
thought.
to this
So
extent.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of bonkers just with everything. But again, I'm also not surprised, just like you said, Travis, going on. The Republican Party is so split right now. I mean, it's I think a large majority of Republicans, kind of realized if we want to unite as a party moving forward, we have to put the Trump train and ideology behind us. But you know, in sports terms, this is the next couple of years are rebuilding years, for the Republican Party, but you're still going to have these handful of asshats that are
Yeah.
these Trump or die individuals, and because of that, because you have those individuals, it creates a rift for the rest of the party, and who benefits from that? The Democrats.
Right.
And it's and then it's tough because if you do fall behind, how long is it going to take before the Republican Party is able to fix itself? And we talked about this a while back. Like there was this supposed to be this big red wave
Oh
that
yeah.
happened. That was
Yeah.
all the talk, and that
Yeah.
wasn't the case. And I think it's because in a lot of these states, not all of them, but in some of them, people are starting to realize that these individuals that are hardcore Trump supporters, or if a state had that hardcore Trump individual in office as a public figure, now voters are turning away from that, and they're getting away from that kind of ideology. And yeah, I think that the Republican Party has a lot of work to do.
Well,
And I mean, it was embarrassing, and
well,
everyone and their dog outside of the United States saw this. So, I
let me.
mean,
So there was an article that I shared with the boys today. This was out of New Yorker from 2 days ago. This is, and again, you have to take this with a grain of salt because the New Yorker is very left leaning. But they brought up a good point, in which they said, in many ways, the GOP is underprepared for the post-Trump era. In 2020, and I did not know this until I read this and I did some more research on it and found it was indeed true. Republicans declined to put forward any formal platform, and they went light on the policy in the 2022 midterm campaigns, hoping instead that a reaction against economic inflation and Biden's unpopularity would sweep them to big majorities. And upon reading that, after the 2020 election, the Republicans were shell shocked because they thought they had a surefire winner in Donald Trump, and that there it, you hadn't seen an incumbent lose the election since George Bush Sr. since HW in 19 it would have been 1998, right? Yeah, 98 when you or no 94. It was in 1994 when George H.W. Bush did not win re-election. Up until that time, we've always had incumbent win, incumbent win, incumbent win, incumbent win. And so that was a shock to the system, I think, the Republicans. And they were so shocked, and they were still reeling from the whole January 6th thing, that they were too busy pointing fingers at each other and saying, "Hey, we lost because you didn't do your part. Oh no, you didn't support the recount on the electoral ballots." And we're still feeling the aftershock of that. Number two thing that this article pointed out that I totally agree with was they were counting on, which you see, it depends on who you follow and how you follow, what groups you follow on social media. Every day you get the Sleepy Joe or the sleep, the child sniffing Sleepy Joe meme and all this other stuff, and they use these political puns. Oh, look, how could we elect a guy who sniffs kids' hair and can't remember the blah blah blah? Because he's not on. I don't need you guys are more Twitter savvy than I. I mean, does Joe Biden even have anything on Twitter? Does he, or does he just have a? Does he have a ghostwriter do most of his stuff
I'm
on?
not on Twitter. I couldn't tell you.
Sean, I know you do.
I don't imagine that it is Joe actually sending those tweets.
I would seriously doubt Joe Biden runs his own Twitter.
If you
I don't know if you can tweet from a cricket phone. So
hey, hey, hey,
with the big
hey,
ass phone
hey,
numbers
hey,
that
hey,
that
hey,
he had.
hey.
Do you guys remember
You're talking about the
those
old,
cricket?
yep,
Um,
yeah, the old timer cricket
they
phones.
had those
Yes,
giant
all the buttons. All you had was the number buttons
numbers
on the
on
on
the
the
buttons,
phone.
and it was
Yep.
just like, are you old and blind as fuck? Get one of these.
Yeah.
I almost bought one for my mom as a
Oh
gag
my
gift, but
gosh, my dad.
honestly, would have
That's what
been
my
he
dad
would have loved
needs.
it because it
But
would have worked.
no, and so I don't think, and I've had this discussion with a lot, and with my kids in the last couple of weeks, I've had this discussion about and I don't apologize for Joe because he's definitely going through a lot of mental health issues. He's going through dementia. We're not even going to address that issue today, but you know the news cycle is already priming the pump that they believe, and I had read somewhere in one of my articles I was reading today that you can expect within the next 2 to 4 months Joe's going to announce his reelection campaign. That's just the way it usually works. So
That blows
usually,
my mind.
yeah. So you're talking about anywhere from May, maybe April, around you probably after Easter, anywhere up into the summer. That's where, and then once you hit November of the off year, the reelection campaign is in full force. And I still Joe for the second time. I don't know if you guys caught this weekend, but for the second time in his speech, this has happened with Kamala in the room. Joe has referred to her as President Harris, and it's just
I didn't catch that.
no.
No.
It was on. I mean, everybody put a little blurb on there, and I was just like, I really don't. Joe is the last, in my opinion, and people can disagree with me, but he's the last of the moderate Democrats. I mean, aside from Joe Manchin, who's just pretty much Republican and Democrat close, this is the last, and who knows what they're going to stick in there. And this kind of transitions into our next topic here that was voted as by our readers, or by our followers, the whole the paper thing, the finding and with between and a report that was listed by the New York Post, the timeline they had listed had said that since they found the first classified documents in Biden's office. Biden was what they call a fellow or a guest professor at Penn University, not Penn State, but Penn University, there in Delaware, and they found classified documents in his office, which, by the way, he hadn't used but a handful of times. And they had found documents in there on November the 2nd, 2 days before the election, nonetheless. And how the news cycle was able to keep that silent is beyond me. And all the way up until a week ago today, and of course a week ago today, Joe talks about it. Joe talks about his Corvettes quite a bit, but they found classified documents in storage containers in the safest place it could possibly be, I guess, which is Joe Biden's garage. So, and already you have the Trump you have the Trump camp standing on top of the tallest building and saying foul, 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 foul. And, Travis, why don't you tell us a little, kind of the discussion we had before we went on tonight, what your thoughts are on this?
I mean, is it mishandling and like pure negligence? Yes, but it was kind of what I told you earlier. It's not like Biden personally put these documents in a box and personally put them in his garage, and like they have a whole staff that, and I'm sure the timeline's like really tight when they gotta get all this stuff out, and they have to properly handle all this stuff because it's the government. So there's like this stupid process of how you're supposed to do things. And I'll be real with you, they don't do it. It was the same in the military. And what I think it was just poor handling by his staff. And also shame on him for like, surely he knew that, hey, we're going to put this in your garage. I would like to think he at least knew. If he didn't, shame on him for not even knowing
Oh
about it.
man.
But I really, I think a lot of it is just the fact that staff, it's a failure on the staff, and it was just probably a super tight timeline, and there was just probably just an absolute shit show trying to get stuff handled properly for the next administration to come in and all this kind of crap. But again, I don't. At the same time, it is negligence, and it is on him. And I mean, there are some differences in this situation versus Trump's, which we talked about, and there's a New York Times article here that goes into it pretty good. We can get into that if you'd like.
Yeah.
Um,
The when you look at this timeline, and well, Sean, go ahead and give us what you think about. I mean, you got. I like, and I want you, if you can, Sean, kind of maybe further even on Travis's comment of, hey, that's par for the course for the military and how they handle paperwork and stuff like that with your own
just the
personal
government in general.
experience. We could say even. I mean, what's the I guess the word you say is what's the par for the course when it comes to government handling of documents?
Well, I mean, that was going to be one of the things that I was going to mention. Like,
Oh,
Oh,
we lost him there at the peak of a good comment.
oh no, you're good.
There you go.
Can you hear me still?
Yeah, we got you.
there he is. There he is.
Okay. So we haven't seen any particulars, right? Like, as far as
No,
I'm tracking, there haven't been any
no.
announcements as to what exactly. So again, these classified documents could be anything. Like I know for us, like within the military, we have documents that were classified that were food menu items.
That's a
For
good
certain
point. Yeah.
individuals. I'm not joking. Like,
Yeah.
don't know what these things are. Again, it's also it doesn't make sense. Like, again, where they're located. Like, why would Joe Biden would even have the home?
Hmm.
Like, when we look at these things of um a lot of times, if there is like sensitization and maybe home and looking at it one day, right? And then the next week that particular thing was not important anymore. It's not uncommon for that kind of stuff to just be shredded and forgotten about, depending on what the actual document is and what it is. So this could have literally kind of been a thing where it's like, yeah, it's all it's like it was like looked at for how long. I
Kind
don't
of get
know. Am I wrong? Does it say that these documents were collected like while he was, while during his tenure as vice president?
yeah. The majority of these were Biden Obama notes, and you do bring up a great point, Sean. And for all of the and by the way,
So
Devin Linton did say
cut you off.
Devin Linton did say would have been too many memes if it were Penn State, but
Well, not to try to cut you off, but so this literally could have been anything
yeah.
again, because when it comes to what's considered quote unquote classified, right? It could mean like they were talking about the budget for the this department one day, and it just so happened to be considered a closed meeting where it was just a select group of individuals, and it was the forms, like literally think of it like a run sheet. Everyone gets a copy. You put on it, secretary on whatever. Okay, I'm gonna. I go home. He goes home. He looks at these notes, reads them, whatever. Put them away to some, you know, crack with Hunter, and then goes to work the next day, and those notes just sit there, and that's literally what it is. But no, you're right, because of the kind of witch hunt that we had said with Trump. I think it's the same thing. These documents could have been anything. Like some of the damn classified documents that Trump could have had in his house could have been his
Well,
fucking Diet Coke order
well
that he had, by the pallet for
yeah, or the
the
or
White
or
House.
the or the McDonald's food order for the boys from that won the national championship and everything.
Oh, I remember that.
You know, one of these things that I think, and this was in the New York, and I refer back to Travis, and I've been referring to this New York Times article, and it made. I'd say there was probably about 10 comparisons between the two that this article had made. And one of the things that, first of all, that they mentioned was they we're still, so this was as of this morning, they're still under a dozen documents, single issue papers, 12 documents. They, for whatever reason, whoever, I don't know if, Jilla's wife was cleaning out the garage, oh my God, what's this? Or if it was something, some staffers were cleaning out the office at Penn, and they said, oh my gosh, this is, and like Sean said, we have no idea what it was. And the difference between classified and top secret. And Travis, maybe you, I don't know, whenever Sean can get back in here with us. But when we look at this distinction, and Sean pretty much actually said it already, when it's something that's classified, I mean, I have classified information that I'm privy to at school. When it comes to students, whether it's an IEP, an individualized education plan, or it's something, it's always marked classified when it deals with the student's health. We even have the for your eyes only thing, and that we get whenever and even when we send emails about a student or a student's thing, we have to, by law, we can't use their name in the subject line. We have to use their initials or their student ID number. And so, even within, and I mean, I'm sure that's that way with just about any job, that because of HIPAA violations, but
Yeah.
when you say now, and some of the stuff that they are finding that they found out with Trump was, and by the way, so 9 documents versus 15 boxes of classified and stuff marked top secret. Okay. To me, we don't want to compare apples to oranges here, but we are comparing. To me, it is apples to oranges, and then how the two responded. Trump's people totally, nope, we're not going to show you that. Nope, we're not going to show you that. Nope, we're not going to show you that.
Yeah.
Biden's people are like, here, take it. We don't want this. Get this away from us. You know what kind of message? I mean, is this a political move, or was this? Do you think this was them kind of trying to clean house before it could have became an issue? I mean, what's the play on this? Do you think, Travis?
I think it's 100% politics, and take that for what it's worth. I think it's just another way, another reason for people to be pointing fingers at each other. It's another thing that Republicans can say, ah, you see, they're doing it too. Even though there's a clear difference in, so far as we know, there's a clear difference in the documents. I mean, there's still stuff we don't know, but I mean, classified and top secret, it's a pretty big difference. And mostly the difference is mostly need to know. Is
Right.
how they usually classify that kind of stuff. But
And
I,
on what was it? So the latest documents that were reported last Monday, on Wednesday, uh, you have House Republicans who are comparing the incident to Donald Trump. Well, what's good for Trump's going to be good for Biden. And Kevin McCarthy, again, king size balls, is coming out and saying that Congress should investigate the Biden matter and launch its own probe. So, you know, if they try, to me, if they try this, they're going to make themselves look like bigger jackasses than what the Democrats did with the January 6th committee hearings. You know, except it's going to have less substance, and you're going after an 80 some odd year old or a 79-year-old man. You know, who
and I don't want to defend Biden by any means. I mean,
no, no, I
I'm
don't
not a
either.
Biden fan. He's done
Nope.
some. I think he's just a shitty politician. He's done some really bad things throughout his whole entire career. But I just think this whole thing is just such a waste. It's such a waste of taxpayer money and resources. Like, there's so many other things Congress and our leadership could be focusing their energy on, and instead, all we get on the news is these documents: Trump versus Biden, the House committee fighting each other, trying to get a Speaker of the House. I mean, come on! Like, you people are here to solve problems, and you're just fighting each other. It's just, I don't want to go on a rant, but that's kind of where my head's at with it.
Well, and so you
And not
had
to defend him again, not to defend him. It's negligence for both sides for the paperwork, but come on.
well, and there was an interesting comment from a Democrat. Let me see. I had the comment written down here. Senator Ben Cardin and he's a Democrat from Maryland, said that the Republicans are creating a false equivalency because one person, Biden handled it right, the other person, Trump, handled it wrong. And Adam Schiff, who of course was the guy who led the whole January 6th and all the impeachment stuff, stated that he saw no evidence of wrongdoing with Biden's handling. Of course he did. Biden's handling of the classified information, and the situation with Biden is different from the situation with Trump. Schiff also said the handling of documents may have compromised national security in reference to Donald Trump. Like we said, we don't know what Joe what the documents were with Joe, but again, it could be, like we said, it could be anything. And this to me, along with the whole Kevin McCarthy and Matt Getz, that whole episode, to me, this is really starting to, and I hate to be this guy to say this, but to me, and I've said this I've said it when you guys, I mean, we are outside of the Roman Empire, we are the longest lasting continual government in the history of the world. Next to the Roman Empire, we're it. And for the fact that,
Scary.
and when you look at my daughter's actually, she had an essay she had to write tonight talking about the decline of the Roman Empire. What led to the decline of the Roman Empire? The number one reason, and I've taught this in my ancient civ class before, was decline in patriotism, decline in national spirit, decline in nationalism. Now we do have our far right guys who claim to be very super nationalistic, but overall, when you look at the average Americans, we're like, what the hell? Just throw our hands up and just say, what is this? What's going on? You know, and to me, like you said, it's a total show. It's a total show, but to see that what's going on in the White House, what's going on in the Congress, it's political wrangling. You're not going to see any meaningful legislation passed in the next 2 years. They're going to make this, and this is going to dominate. This will be on this will be on the top fold of news discussion. If I would say it's safe to say for at least the next month to 2 months that this whole document gate or whatever you want to call it is going to be what's on top shelf. And you know, a couple of comments that I wanted to bring out from our chat page tonight. Our listener Colby Coleman says, Trump's time has passed. Uh, Kyle McGuire, another one of our loyal listeners, referred to Matt Getz as a king size douchebag. So we do agree with those. Thank you for those comments. But when you look at this next election, and it goes back to what Sean was talking about. And we talked about the red wave, which has been one of our biggest shows this year. Like number 3 on our list. I was looking at our analytics the other day, but this is the red wave episode is one of our top 5 downloaded and listened to videos. And, that red wave was supposed to be a big deal. People were counting on such a negative kickback against the Democrats that we're going to see this Republic. We're going to take power of the House. We're going to take power of the Senate. And like we said, when we said 1,000 times over, if it's got Donald Trump's fingerprint on it, it's, and I almost forgot. Hats off to the boys and girls at C-SPAN television. If you're a nerd like me, and I'm a big nerd when it comes, and so as I'm watching C-SPAN, they do this wide-angle shot of when Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she's holding her phone, and if you've got the iPhone like me, you can do your, when you dial somebody up, it's got their name at the top, and Marjorie Taylor Greene's trying to get to Matt Gaetz, and then one. I think it was one of the other big holdouts was this guy from Montana, and you see, so she has her phone open and exposed, and it says on her phone, it says DT. It says DT on it, and she's trying to hand the phone to Matt Gaetz, and he's doing one of the no, and then this guy from Montana, again, the same thing, and he's going, no, I don't, and which to say, both of these guys were Donald Trump super supporters. Oh, we lost Sean, but that's okay. Was one of these Donald Trump super supporters in the last election. They were the Donald Trump stalwarts. And so, here we go. Here's Sean coming back in now. And so, these were 2 of Donald Trump's supporters. And so when the game starts getting played, they're showing in Marjorie Taylor Greene's definitely trying to get Donald Trump to influence. These guys are like, no, we're not listening to Donald Trump on this. And so, again, Donald Trump is, and that was another, shoot, I should have put that one on there too. Last week, Donald Trump's, one of his organizations, what was it, a $1.6 million fine that they were given. They were found on tax fraud charges.
I think I heard something about this.
Two of his organizations were indicted. They were found to be guilty of tax fraud. So to me, it's still screaming. My dad all the old timers always used to say the proof is in the pudding. Now, Sean, don't run with that one either, but the idea is Joe really can go on being a moron and being an idiot. And if he is propped up again for 2024, all Trump has to do is keep on running his mouth. And in my opinion, the Republican Party will remain divided, and we'll see Joe in the twilight of his life. Well, we're seeing him in the twilight of his life as president.
Dude, if he gets reelected, shame on the voters.
Yeah. So, Sean, we do have you back now. So, any comments or anything that you have to say about that?
Well, I don't know what happened because I could hear you guys and see you guys the entire time. I'm not sure what happened.
All that rain out there in California.
No, it's not the rain. It's the forest fires and the blackouts.
And the homeless people.
Homeless people cutting the wires.
Blackouts, poop on streets. Yeah.
Anyway.
Mandatory PP hole vaccinations that they make you get. It's wild.
Oh, man.
No, you guys pretty much hit the nail on the head with a lot of it, especially just towards the end there with, the idea of him being reelected is scary. But just because I think we've kind of seen in this, it's not like we're not even joking when we say that the signs of age deterioration, the dementia, the issues that this man is having are really evident. And it's as much as, and V, I think you kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, with him being the last moderate Democrat, it makes it interesting because what comes next after him will be interesting. What comes next after Trump, the next Republican president, I think that one's going to be interesting because I think whoever that is, that's going to kind of be the footprint that we see from the Republican Party. But again, I don't know. It's weird because I think the Democrats all find where in 2 years,
We got him? You still there, Sean?
Am I here?
Yeah. Sure. Wildfires.
If Joe Biden doesn't run for president, is there a Democratic candidate that's strong enough to defeat the strongest Republican candidate?
No.
I just don't know if there is right now. People could have argued Mayor Pete, but he's kind of been the last week. So
I mean, Pritzker's pretty popular right now. Illinois.
We've kicked that thing around. That's the scary thing that he's the top. He's at the top of the. Right now, JB is at the top of the list. Excuse me, he's at the top of the list to challenge Joe.
Yeah, he's battling out with the sheriffs right now in this state.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other topic.
Yeah. So, but no, I wanted just to do rapid fire. We took last week off. We thank all of our fans for being very loyal and very patient with us. Life happens sometimes here on the podcast. Sean was busy getting ready for Arizona. Travis was being a good husband and picking his wife up. I was being the soccer dad and chasing all over God's creation. But we have, always proud of our listener base. So thank you guys all for backing us up and continuing to support us. And I do want to issue this. Again, I was looking at the last 30-day analytics for I want to end with this. Our last 30-day analytics, according to Spotify, our foreign audience, and I don't know if you all would go to our Facebook page, we would love to hear from you, especially our growing, and it's weird to say this, but our growing listenership in Germany. Okay? Whoever you guys are, please go to our Facebook page and message us, please. We would love to hear you.
Probably part of some college study or something right now.
Who knows what it is, but I was looking online the other day, and it was saying it was like two cities, Hanover and I remember Hanover and Berlin were two of our, and over half of our German listeners are, and of course that may be 5 listeners in Germany, but please, to our foreign audience, please go and like our Facebook page. Hats off to, I forgot what the name of it actually isn't, it's Spotify, but it's one of their foreign counterparts in overseas that it distributes to them. So, but anyway, thank you for our foreign listeners. Please come to our website, share it with your foreign friends, and we can be a worldwide sensation before you know it. So, yeah. And I think it looks like Sean's frozen again. But from all of us here at the Voice of he's kind of, we can hear you there a little bit, Sean, but I'll go ahead and,
off halfway through.
yeah. Well, we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Be a friend. How do I say that, Sean? Be a friend. Share with a friend.
Be a friend, tell a friend.
Be a friend, tell a friend. That's what it is. That's Sean's tagline. And we'll see you all next week. And hopefully we can get all the wildfires and homeless people and poop on the streets out of Los Angeles, so Sean can have better internet connection for us next week. Anyway, have a great week. This is the Voice of Reason podcast, and we'll see you next time.